The metal clasp of Mina's purse struck my face with a sickening crunch. Blood splattered across the birthday cake, the crimson droplets mingling with blue frosting that spelled out, "Happy 35, Theo." The room went silent. 20 guests froze mid-conversation, champagne flutes suspended in mid-air. "Now you look as pathetic as you really are," Mina hissed, standing over me while the candles still flickered behind her. I touched my cheek, feeling warm blood trickle between my fingers. A tooth felt loose. The pain wasn't what stunned me. It was seeing Iris, my wife of 4 years, step beside her sister instead of me. "You brought this on yourself," Iris said, her voice unnervingly calm. "After what you've done to her future." Our friends and neighbors shifted uncomfortably. Some looked away, others watched with undisguised fascination, the kind reserved for car crashes and public meltdowns. Nobody moved to help me. I simply smiled through the blood and pain, my eyes never leaving Iris. "Thank you both for making this so clear," I said quietly. The stillness that followed felt electric, dangerous. Mina smirked. "What are you going to do about it, garden boy? Plant some angry tomatoes?" Laughter rippled nervously through the room. Someone whispered something about leaving. I stood straight, dabbed my bleeding face with a birthday napkin, and addressed our guests. "Thank you all for coming. I think we'll end the celebration early tonight." As people awkwardly gathered their things, I caught Iris's eye. For just a moment, uncertainty flickered across her face. She didn't know me at all, I realized. Not really, not anymore. That night, while Iris slept in the guest room, I sat alone in our darkened kitchen. The house we'd worked so hard to restore together, the dreams we'd planted and nurtured, all of it built on shifting sand. I opened my laptop and canceled her shopping account privileges. Then, with steady fingers, I drafted an email to the community housing board I chaired. By 7:50 the next morning, Mina would discover her lease had been terminated. The first small tremor before the earthquake I'd set in motion years ago, waiting for just this moment. What neither Iris nor Mina knew was that the man they'd been mocking for 4 years wasn't just a simple community gardener, and they were about to learn exactly what happens when you mistake patience for weakness. If you've ever been betrayed by someone you loved, hit that subscribe button. If you've ever been underestimated or humiliated, leave a comment below. And if you're wondering what happens next, because believe me, this garden has thorns, give this a like so you don't miss how this story blooms into something neither of these women ever saw coming. My name is Theodore Palmer. Everyone calls me Theo. I've spent my life working with plants because they're honest in ways people rarely are. Seeds either grow or they don't. Plants either thrive or wither. There's no pretending, no masks, no lies wrapped in smiles. I grew up in Riverbrook, a once thriving neighborhood that declined when the factory closed. While other families fled, mine stayed. My father taught science at the local high school. My mother ran a small bakery that barely survived. They believed in rebuilding rather than abandoning, in healing rather than cutting losses. I inherited that stubborn optimism, along with my father's analytical mind and my mother's creative hands. After college, I returned to Riverbrook with degrees in urban planning and environmental science. While classmates chased corporate jobs, I started transforming abandoned lots into community gardens. People called me idealistic, naive, a dreamer wasting his potential. I heard the whispers but kept working. Each garden became a small revolution, providing fresh food in areas supermarkets had abandoned, creating green spaces where concrete dominated, building community in places isolation had become the norm. I met Iris at a neighborhood meeting 4 years ago. She had recently moved to Riverbrook, drawn by the affordable housing and proximity to the city center. She stood out immediately, not just because of her striking copper hair or confident stance, but because she asked thoughtful questions about sustainable development. "You're doing something remarkable here," she told me afterward, eyes bright with what seemed like genuine interest. "Most people just talk about change. You're actually making it happen." For weeks, she volunteered at the gardens. She suggested organizing cooking classes to teach people how to use the vegetables they grew. She connected me with local artists who painted murals on the garden walls. She seemed to understand my vision in ways no one else had. When we married a year later, I believed I'd found a true partner. Someone who saw value in work that didn't come with prestige or wealth. Someone who understood that real change happens slowly, deliberately, like the growth of a tree. I was wrong. Looking back, I should have recognized the warning signs. The way Iris's enthusiasm dimmed when her sister Mina visited. How she'd downplay my work when talking to Mina's friends. The subtle shift in her language, from our community projects to Theo's gardens. Mina worked in luxury real estate, selling multi-million-dollar properties to clients who would never set foot in neighborhoods like Riverbrook. She drove a gleaming white luxury car, wore clothes that cost more than our monthly mortgage, and never missed an opportunity to remind Iris what she'd given up by marrying me. A gardener? Really? She'd say at family gatherings, the word gardener dripping with disdain. You could have had anyone. Instead, you chose someone who plays in dirt for a living. At first, Iris defended me. He's not just a gardener. He's revitalizing entire communities. But gradually, Mina's perspective infected her like a slow-spreading disease. Iris began making comments about our modest home. She suggested I look for positions with prestigious environmental firms. She stopped attending community events, claiming she was too tired after her new job at an upscale boutique Mina had connected her with. The woman who once helped plant seedlings in the rain now complained about dirt under my fingernails when I touched her. The woman who had loved exploring abandoned spaces with me now wanted vacations at exclusive resorts. The woman who had seen beauty in our mission now saw only limitations. What Iris and Mina never bothered to understand was that my community garden project was merely the visible part of a much larger vision. While they mocked my calloused hands and humble income, I had been quietly acquiring abandoned properties throughout Riverbrook. Each purchase was modest, but together they formed a strategic network across our once blighted area. Every rundown house I bought for back taxes, every vacant lot I secured through community grants, every abandoned building I convinced the city to rezone, all of it part of a patient, methodical plan to revitalize the neighborhood from within, to ensure development would benefit the people who had stayed rather than push them out. 6 months ago, Mina started dating Vincent, a developer who specialized in discovering undervalued neighborhoods and transforming them into trendy enclaves for young professionals. Translation: gentrification expert. He bulldozed community spaces and replaced them with overpriced condos and boutiques, selling $12 smoothies. Vincent had been circling Riverbrook for months, buying up properties wherever he could. He'd hit a roadblock with the old elementary school, a beautiful brick building that had stood empty for years. The school board wanted to sell, but they couldn't without my signature. As the head of the community trust that had secured partial rights to the property, I had effective veto power. Vincent offered me triple what the property was worth. When I declined, he doubled his offer. "Think about what that money could do for you and Iris," he said, his smile never reaching his eyes. "You could move somewhere better, start a real business, give your wife the life she deserves." I refused again. The school was meant to become an indoor growing facility and education center, the heart of our year-round urban agriculture program. I'd been working toward this for nearly a decade. 3 weeks later, Vincent proposed a compromise. He would dedicate the ground floor to a garden-themed cafe if I would sign off on converting the rest to luxury apartments. When I explained that wasn't the purpose of the project, he laughed. "Look around, Palmer. This neighborhood is changing whether you like it or not. Better to get on board now while you can still benefit." I showed him the door. That night, Iris confronted me. "Vincent told Mina about your stubbornness," she said, pacing our kitchen. "Do you have any idea what you're throwing away? That money could change our lives." "Our lives don't need changing," I replied. "And that building belongs to the community, not to Vincent's profit margins." "The community," she repeated, voice hollow. "Always the community. What about us? What about what I want?" I looked at my wife. Really looked at her. The woman standing before me in designer clothes bought with my garden grants wasn't the person I'd married. Or perhaps she was, and I'd been too blinded by hope to see it. "What do you want, Iris?" I asked quietly. She hesitated only briefly. "I want more than this. More than community gardens and potluck dinners and hand-me-down furniture. I want what Mina has." Is that so wrong? A week later came my birthday party. Iris had insisted on hosting, inviting neighbors and friends to our home. I'd been surprised by her enthusiasm, wondered if perhaps she was trying to repair what had been breaking between us. Then Mina arrived with Vincent, and I overheard them in the kitchen, discussing how Mina's commission from the school property sale would finance her new luxury apartment. How Iris would get a finder's fee for convincing me to sign. That's when I understood. The party wasn't a peace offering. It was a setup, a public venue where they expected me to cave under social pressure. Instead, I announced to Vincent, loud enough for everyone to hear, that the community trust had just secured additional funding to renovate the school building ourselves, that his services wouldn't be needed. Minutes later, Mina's purse connected with my face. Now, as I sat in my study watching the sunrise, I knew exactly what needed to happen next. Not just with Iris and Mina, but with everything I'd built. Years of patience were about to bear fruit in ways neither woman could imagine. My phone buzzed with a text from Iris. "We need to talk. Now." I smiled as I typed my response. "Yes, we certainly do." The morning after my ruined birthday, I stood in our front yard, pulling weeds from the flower beds as Iris's car screeched into the driveway. She slammed the door and stormed toward me, face flushed, knuckles white around her phone. "What did you do?" she demanded, thrusting the screen in my face. It showed a declined transaction at her favorite boutique. I continued working the soil. I made some necessary financial adjustments. "You can't just—" She stopped mid-sentence as her phone rang. Mina's name flashed on the screen. Iris answered and immediately pulled the phone from her ear as her sister's screams became audible even to me. "They're evicting me. 30 days. The building says the community board terminated my lease for community redevelopment." Iris stared at me, comprehension dawning. "You're on that board." I nodded, brushing dirt from my hands. "Founding member." "Fix this," Iris hissed, covering the phone. "Now." I stood, finally meeting her gaze. "No." That single word hung between us like a physical thing. In our 4 years together, I had compromised, accommodated, adjusted. I had never simply refused her. "Theo, this isn't funny. My sister will be homeless." "Your sister makes 6 figures selling luxury properties. She'll find somewhere else to live, just not in a building subsidized by community development funds she's actively working against." Iris's face hardened. "You're punishing her because she embarrassed you." "I'm enforcing policies that have always existed. Community housing is for people who support the community." I gestured toward our modest home. "Everything we have, this house, our life, my work, it's all built on principles you used to share. When did that change, Iris?" "When I realized there's more to life than urban gardens and secondhand furniture," she snapped. "When I saw what Mina has debt, Iris. Designer clothes and a luxury car she can barely afford. Why do you think she was so desperate for that commission?" Confusion flickered across her face before she masked it. "You don't know what you're talking about." "I know exactly what I'm talking about. The question is, do you? Do you even know who you married anymore?" The silence that followed felt like standing on shifting ground. 4 years of marriage, teetering on the edge of something irreparable. Iris's phone buzzed again. A text from Vincent. Her eyes widened as she read it. "You blocked the school sale? How could you?" She looked up, tears forming. "That was our chance to start over." "Your chance to what? Cash in on a neighborhood you've contributed nothing to?" "The school isn't for sale, Iris. It never was. The community trust owns 60%. I made sure of that 5 years ago." 5 years? But we've only been together 4. I nodded. "I've been working on Riverbrook's restoration since before I met you. Nothing about that has changed. I'm exactly who I've always been. You're the one who became someone else." The next morning, I arrived at the community center to find Vincent waiting for me, leaning against his sleek black car. His usual smooth confidence seemed frayed at the edges. "Palmer," he called, straightening his Italian suit jacket, "we need to talk." "We've talked enough," I replied, unlocking the center's door. He followed me inside. "Look, I understand you're upset about what happened at your party. Mina can be intense. But this is business, not personal." I turned to face him. "Is it? Because having your girlfriend assault me at my birthday party felt pretty personal." Vincent winced. "That was unfortunate. But what you're doing now, blocking the school development, canceling Mina's lease, that's going too far." The lease termination follows clear guidelines that Mina violated when she partnered with a developer targeting subsidized properties. As for the school, that decision was made by the entire Community Trust Board. "Come on, Palmer, everyone has a price. Name yours." I studied him, the expensive watch, the manicured nails, the practiced smile that never quite reached his eyes. A man who believed everything and everyone could be bought. Not everyone, Vincent. That's something you've never understood about Riverbrook. Some things aren't for sale. His facade cracked. This neighborhood is changing whether you want it to or not. Property values are already rising. The people you think you're protecting? They'll be priced out within 5 years anyway. Not if we own the land, I said quietly. Not if we control the development. Uncertainty flashed across his face. What are you talking about? Instead of answering, I unlocked my office and retrieved a large map of Riverbrook, spreading it across the conference table. Scattered across it were green pins marking community gardens, blue pins for residential properties, and red pins for commercial spaces. What is this? Vincent asked, leaning closer. This is Riverbrook. The pins represent properties owned by various community trusts and cooperatives I've helped establish over the past decade. As Vincent stared at the map, I watched realization dawn. Nearly 60% of the neighborhood was marked with pins. That's not possible, he whispered. You can't have acquired this much. Not me, us, the community. One property at a time, while developers like you were waiting for the whole neighborhood to collapse so you could swoop in and revitalize it. I made air quotes around the word. We've been quietly buying back our own neighborhood for years. Vincent's face reddened. With what money? You're a community gardener. I smiled. I'm an urban planning specialist with degrees from Cornell and MIT. The gardens were just the beginning, visible projects that built trust and community involvement. Behind them, we established land trusts, secured grants, partnered with ethical investors, and lobbied for policy changes. Vincent stared at the map again, recalculating. Mina never mentioned any of this. Mina never bothered to ask. Neither did Iris. They were too busy looking down on the dirt under my fingernails to notice what those hands were actually building. I watched as Vincent processed the implications. His development plans were effectively blocked. The school was just the tip of the iceberg. We could still work together, he offered, voice tight. A partnership. Your community knowledge, my investment capital. The time for that conversation was before you tried to undermine everything we've built. Before your girlfriend assaulted me. Before you tried to turn my wife against me. I folded the map. Now I have work to do. As Vincent left, his phone already at his ear, I felt no triumph, only a hollow ache for what had been lost. Not just my marriage, but the possibility of working with developers who might have shared our vision for ethical, community-centered growth. That evening, I returned home to find Iris packing a suitcase. I'm staying with Mina, she announced without looking up, until you come to your senses. My senses are perfectly intact, I replied, leaning against the doorframe. It's my pride that's bruised, along with my face. She finally met my eyes. This isn't you, Theo. The man I married wouldn't be this vindictive. The woman I married wouldn't stand by while her sister assaulted her husband. We've both changed, it seems. Iris zipped her suitcase closed. Mina says Vincent told her what you showed him today. Some map? Is it true you've been secretly buying up the neighborhood? Not secretly, I've been talking about it for years. You just weren't listening. That's not... She stopped herself, frowning. But where did the money come from? We can barely afford new kitchen appliances. We can afford whatever we prioritize, Iris. I chose to invest in the community instead of granite countertops. With what money? She pressed. I sighed, sitting on the edge of the bed. My parents left me their life insurance when they died. It wasn't much, but it was enough to start. Then came grants, partnerships, community fundraising. Your parents? Iris looked genuinely confused. You told me they died in a car accident when you were in college. They did. Did you think I appeared fully formed at age 28 when you met me? That I had no past, no plans before you entered my life? Hurt flashed across her face. You never shared any of this with me. I tried, Iris. For years, I tried. You came to meetings at first, heard the plans, met the people involved. Then you started having headaches, scheduling conflicts, better things to do. You stopped asking questions. You stopped caring. That's not fair, isn't it? When was the last time you asked about my work? Not to complain about the hours or the pay, but because you were genuinely interested? She had no answer. Take all the time you need at Mina's, I said finally. But know that she'll need to find a new place soon. And know that I won't be changing my mind about Vincent's development. As Iris left, wheeling her suitcase behind her, I felt a strange mixture of grief and relief. The pretense was over. Whatever happened next would at least be honest. 3 days later, the local news broke a story that sent shockwaves through Riverbrook. The headline read, "Community Trust Announces Major Urban Agriculture Initiative." The article detailed plans to transform the abandoned school into a year-round indoor growing facility, culinary education center, and farmers market. It mentioned significant grant funding from national organizations, partnerships with 3 universities, and pilot programs that would create jobs for neighborhood residents. My phone rang constantly, colleagues congratulating me, neighbors asking how to get involved, reporters seeking interviews. The only silence came from Iris and Mina. Until a week later, when Vincent appeared at the community center again, this time with a different proposition. "I want to invest in your project," he said, sliding a proposal across my desk. Legitimately, no tricks. I skimmed the document. The numbers were substantial. Why the change of heart? "Because I recognize a winning strategy when I see one," he admitted, "and because your approach actually makes financial sense. Sustainable development, community ownership, it creates stability that benefits everyone." I studied him carefully. "Including you?" "I'm a businessman, Palmer. I go where the opportunities are. Right now, that's with you, not against you." "And Mina? Where does she stand on this?" Vincent's expression tightened. "We're taking some time apart. Her approach to real estate doesn't align with this new direction." I considered his offer. The funding would accelerate our timeline by years. But could I trust him? "I'll bring this to the board," I said finally, "but I make no promises." Vincent nodded. "Fair enough." He turned to leave, but paused at the door. "For what it's worth, I didn't know about Mina's plan at your party. And Iris, she seemed caught in the middle." After he left, I sat staring at his proposal, turning a decision over in my mind. Not about Vincent's offer that would indeed go to the board, but about my marriage. About forgiveness and second chances. About whether broken trust could ever truly be repaired. That night, I received a text from Iris. "Can we talk?" "Not about us, about the project. I've been reading the coverage." I stared at my phone for a long time before replying, "Community Center. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. Sleep eluded me that night. Every path forward seemed fraught with complications. Accept Vincent's investment and risk compromising our vision. Reject it and potentially delay progress that would benefit the community. Try to rebuild my marriage or accept that it was beyond repair. When morning came, I arrived at the center early, preparing for my meeting with Iris. As I unlocked the door, I noticed a document had been slipped underneath. A legal notice. My hands trembled slightly as I read it. Vincent's company had filed a lawsuit challenging the community trust's ownership of several key properties, including the school. They claimed procedural violations in how the properties were acquired. My phone buzzed with a text from Iris. "On my way. Have something important to tell you." I looked from the legal notice to my phone and back again. Was this why she wanted to meet? Had she known about this lawsuit? The timing was too perfect to be coincidence. As I waited for Iris to arrive, I couldn't help wondering, was this their plan all along? To distract me with investment offers while building a legal case to undermine everything we'd worked for? And if so, was Iris part of it? I watched Iris through the community center window as she approached. She looked different, hair pulled back in a simple ponytail, wearing jeans and a sweater instead of her usual designer clothes. For a moment, I glimpsed the woman I'd married, before Mina's influence had taken hold. She noticed me watching and hesitated before climbing the steps. I met her at the door, the legal notice in my hand. "Is this what you wanted to talk about?" I asked, holding up the document. Confusion crossed her face. "What is that?" "A lawsuit. Vincent's company is challenging our ownership of the properties." I searched her expression for signs of deception. "Filed yesterday." The color drained from her face. I didn't know about this." "Then why are you here, Iris?" She took a deep breath. "To warn you, Vincent and Mina are planning something. I overheard them talking last night." I gestured for her to continue. "Vincent never intended to invest in your project. He was gathering information about the property holdings, looking for weaknesses." She pointed at the document in my hand. "That must be what they were discussing. And you're just telling me this now, after weeks of siding with them?" Iris looked down. "I've been stupid, Theo. So caught up in what I thought I wanted that I couldn't see what was happening." She met my eyes again, but I'm not here to ask forgiveness. I'm here because what they're doing is wrong. I studied her face, searching for the truth. 7 days earlier, she'd packed her bags and walked out. Now she was back, claiming enlightenment. It felt too convenient. "Come inside," I said finally. "Tell me everything you know." Over the next hour, Iris detailed conversations she'd overheard between Vincent and Mina. Their plan was more calculated than I'd imagined. Vincent had been targeting Riverbrook for years, waiting for the right moment to acquire key properties. Mina had been feeding him information about the neighborhood since before we were married. "When I moved to Riverbrook, it wasn't by chance," Iris admitted quietly. "Mina suggested it. Said it was up and coming, affordable." "And meeting me? Was that part of the plan too?" Pain flashed across her face. "No, that was real. At least for me. But you told Mina about me, about my work." She nodded slowly. "I thought I was just sharing my life with my sister. I didn't realize she was reporting everything back to Vincent." "And when did you figure it out?" "Pieces over time. But I didn't want to see it." She twisted her wedding ring. "I liked the lifestyle Mina introduced me to. The shopping, the restaurants, feeling like I belonged in her world. So you chose that over our life together." "I thought I could have both," she whispered. "I was wrong." I considered her words carefully. They aligned with the lawsuit in my hand, but offered nothing I couldn't have deduced myself. I needed more if I was going to trust her. "What exactly did you hear them saying last night?" "They were arguing. Vincent was angry that Mina had lost her temper at your birthday. Said it had made you suspicious before they were ready." Iris hesitated. "They mentioned something about offshore accounts, property holdings under different names. Vincent said they needed to move quickly before you could activate your network, whatever that means." That detail gave me pause. Few people knew about the emergency response network we'd established among community trusts across the city, a mutual aid system designed to mobilize legal and financial resources when any neighborhood faced predatory development. "Did they mention any specific properties they're targeting?" Iris nodded. "The old fire station on Maple, the warehouse district by the river, and," she paused, "our house, Theo. Vincent said the property records show some kind of irregularity they could exploit." Now I knew she was telling the truth. The fire station and warehouse were publicly known projects, but the issue with our house title was something only someone who had seen internal documents would know about. "Thank you for telling me this," I said finally. "But why now? Why the change of heart?" Iris looked away. Last night, after I overheard them, Mina caught me listening. Instead of being concerned, she laughed. Said I shouldn't worry, that I'd get my cut when it was all over. Her voice hardened. That's when I realized I was just another tool to them. They never respected me, or us, or anything we built together. I nodded slowly. "What are you going to do now?" "I don't know," she admitted. "I can't stay with Mina anymore. I've saved enough for a deposit on an apartment, but..." She trailed off, then straightened her shoulders. "That's not why I'm here. I came to warn you, not ask for help." As she turned to leave, I made a decision. "Iris," I called after her. "Would you be willing to put what you told me in writing? Sign an affidavit about what you overheard?" She turned back, surprised. "You want me to testify against my own sister?" "I want you to stand for what's right. Isn't that why you came here today?" After a long moment, she nodded. "Yes, I'll do it." Over the next 2 weeks, events unfolded with dizzying speed. With Iris's sworn statement as a starting point, our legal team uncovered a web of fraudulent practices in Vincent's business dealings. The lawsuit against the community trust was not only dismissed, but triggered a counter-investigation into his company. Meanwhile, I activated our neighborhood network. Community trusts across the city pooled resources for legal defense. Local media ran stories about grassroots resistance to corporate development. Residents rallied around the school project, volunteering time and materials to accelerate construction. Iris kept her distance through it all, neither asking to return home nor completely disappearing. She found a small apartment across town and took a job at a local nursery, work that would have seemed beneath her just months before. 30 days after my ruined birthday party, I invited the neighborhood to the partially renovated school building for a community celebration. The indoor growing systems were operational, rows of leafy greens flourishing under specialized lights. The teaching kitchen gleamed with donated equipment. The farmers' market space was taking shape in what had once been the gymnasium. As residents explored the building, Expressions of wonder on their faces, I spotted a familiar figure at the edge of the crowd. Iris, standing alone, watching people marvel at what we had created. I made my way to her side. "I wasn't sure you'd come." "I wouldn't miss it," she said quietly. "It's extraordinary, Theo, everything you've accomplished. Not just me. The entire community made this happen." She nodded. "I know that now." After a pause, she added, "I heard about Vincent, the investigation into his business practices." "Yes, it seems your statement opened quite a can of worms." "And Mina, have you heard from her?" I hesitated. "Not directly, but my lawyer has. She's trying to distance herself from Vincent, claiming she was unaware of his methods." Iris gave a humorless laugh. "That sounds like her, always landing on her feet." "Not this time," I said quietly. "The Real Estate Licensing Board is reviewing her case. Several of her past deals with Vincent are under scrutiny, and she's been evicted from her apartment, legitimately this time, for subletting against the terms of her lease." "I didn't know." "No reason you would." I studied her face. "Do you regret coming forward?" She considered the question seriously. "No, it was the right thing to do, even if it cost me my relationship with Mina. Some bridges need to burn." We stood in silence, watching children plant seedlings in the demonstration garden under a volunteer's guidance. "I should go," Iris said finally. "I just wanted to see it for myself, to understand what I nearly helped destroy." As she turned to leave, I made another decision, perhaps my most difficult one yet. "Iris," I called after her. "Wait." She paused, looking back. "There's an opening for a program coordinator here. Someone to organize the cooking classes, manage the educational programs. The kind of position you once seemed perfect for." Surprise registered on her face. "You'd trust me with that? After everything?" "Trust has to be rebuilt over time," I said honestly. "But everyone deserves a chance to be part of something meaningful, to grow beyond their mistakes." "Is this forgiveness, Theo?" "It's a beginning," I replied. "The rest is up to us." 6 months later, I stood on the rooftop garden of the school building, watching the sunset over Riverbrook. The neighborhood had transformed, not through gentrification that pushed people out, but through community ownership that lifted people up. The indoor gardens produced food year-round, supplying local restaurants and food banks. The culinary program trained residents for jobs in the growing local food scene. Property values had increased, but community land trusts ensured housing remained affordable for existing residents. Iris had thrown herself into her work with surprising passion, developing programs that connected neighborhood elders with school children, preserving cultural food traditions while teaching sustainable practices. We weren't back together, that bridge had indeed burned, but we had found a way to build something new from the ashes of our marriage. As for Mina, her real estate license was suspended pending investigation. She'd been forced to move to a much less prestigious address, her luxury lifestyle crumbling as legal fees mounted. Vincent faced criminal charges for fraud and had turned on his former associates to save himself. The purse that had struck my face on my birthday now sat in a shadow box in my office, a reminder of the moment that had clarified everything. The scar on my cheek had faded to a thin white line, barely visible unless you knew to look for it. My revenge hadn't been in destroying Iris and Mina, but in building something so undeniably valuable that they were forced to recognize what they'd tried to undermine. Mina lost everything she valued, her status, her career, her lifestyle. Iris lost her illusions about her sister and the hollow world she'd coveted. And I had gained something unexpected, clarity about who I was and what truly mattered. That night, a reporter from a national magazine interviewed me about Riverbrook's transformation. As we finished, she asked one final question. "After everything that happened, all the personal betrayal, what kept you going?" I touched the scar on my cheek thoughtfully. Sometimes, the most powerful response to being underestimated is simply proving your worth through actions, not words. The greatest revenge isn't destruction, it's creation. Building something so meaningful that those who doubted you must confront the smallness of their vision. The Community Garden Project has since been replicated in neighborhoods across the country. Riverbrook has become a case study in ethical urban development. And every day, I walk past the community center where Iris now works, remembering the birthday that changed everything, the day I stopped compromising my vision to please those who never truly saw me. If this story resonated with you, hit that subscribe button to hear more tales of transformation and justice. Leave a comment sharing a time when you were underestimated and how you proved your worth. And if you found yourself cheering for Theo's quiet revolution, give this video a like to help others discover that sometimes the most powerful response to humiliation isn't anger, it's excellence.